Hello and welcome. I'm Linda Kroll, and I'm thrilled that you're choosing to spend some time with me today, either live or on the replay. I'd love to make sure you can hear me, so please type 1 in the chat to make sure you can hear me. And if at any time you have to leave, you can go to lindakroll.com roadmap and connect with me. So take a breath. I'm so grateful you're here, and I've got so much to cover with you. For 35 years, I've been an internal family systems therapist, mediator, attorney, Chopra certified teacher of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda. I wrote the book, Compassionate Mediation, How to Add Passion to Your Marriage or Compassion to Your Divorce. And I've worked with thousands of individuals and couples, and I've trained hundreds of therapists, mediators, coaches, attorneys, counselors, and clergy from around the world. So I'm going to give you the best of my experience in our session today. And I'd love for you to talk with me about what's going on with you. So if at any time you have a question, please put it in the chat. I will stay on as long as needed because I want to make sure you get all your questions answered. So here's what we're going to cover today. How to look at relationships from a compassionate lens, meaning there's no right or wrong. People who stay are creating a better marriage. People who decide to leave can work with the parts of them that are angry and create a better relationship, even if they transform it into a separation or divorce. We're talking about how to get to your higher self, both for you and for your clients, and to get the compassionate mediation roadmap that I want to share with you, which will give you a roadmap into how to use all these skills in 2026. So if you are working as a therapist, a mediator, a coach, I'm sure you have your own skill sets. You know how to be compassionate, you know how to be kind, you know how to do an initial interview. But I find sometimes that we have some challenges that we don't know what to do with. So for instance, you may find that you have different things you'd like to learn here. So I'd love for you to put in the chat if you're a therapist or a coach, if you'd like to learn new skills, more confidence. Okay, you missed the first couple of minutes. Well, I'm glad you're back because I'm here and we're started. And what we're talking about right now is for those of you who are watching to put into the chat, if you'd like to, who you are and how I can help you best. Because even though I have slides and I have a great deal to share with you, I really want to personalize this for you. And if you're joining in the replay, get back to me and we can talk privately and I can give you the benefit of this information. So whoever you are, what are your challenges when you work with couples in conflict? Do you get anxious when you have a couple that's having fights? I know I used to get anxious. My father was a manic depressive, so when he yelled, I got scared. So when I first was a therapist, I found I sometimes took the side of the underdog. And if they came in complaining because they weren't having sex or because one or both was on their phone too much or they were having conflict and it got elevated, at the beginning of my practice, I got a little nervous about that. And sometimes you may feel as a therapist or coach that you don't have answers for your clients when they're thinking of separating or getting a divorce, and you refer them out too soon. So I'm here to help give you the tools today and then ongoing so that you can add a whole new skill set to your practice in 2026. I love Albert Einstein. He has said, men marry women hoping they'll never change, women marry men hoping to change them, and inevitably, they're both disappointed. Great quote. And then they end up in your office or my office. And even though it sounds like it's impossible, I do believe families need not be broken, but can be peacefully and respectfully restructured. I know that I married my college sweetheart. We were married for 20 years, and then we ended up in divorce court. And as we sat in the courtroom and I saw my estranged, soon-to-be ex-beloved husband sitting on the other side of the courtroom, angry, scared, sad, just like me, I told myself there had to be a better way. There had to be a better way for two people who once loved each other to create a new and better relationship, whether they decide to stay together or get divorced. And what I want to give you today is the skills to become compassionate, first with yourself, because it's hard work working with conflict. and you have to practice your own self-care. But then I want to help you show your clients how to have a compassionate lens and how they can have a compassionate lens with each other. Because once they do, you can ask yourself, how many of your clients are wondering, should I stay or should I go? Excuse me. And in my practice, I find that even when both of them are coming for marriage counseling, and what I'm going to offer you today even works with individuals who come to you. You don't need to just work with couples. Because let's say an individual comes to you and they're feeling challenged in their relationship. They don't know whether they want to stay or go. They think they want to stay, but they don't know how. But they are locked in patterns. He always does this, she never does that. And they come to you and they complain to you about their partner if they're coming alone. And if they're coming as a couple, they're complaining about the person next to them. So if you help them learn how to compassionately communicate, then they can take their questions of should I stay or should I go to how do I bring my best self to my relationship now? And sometimes having the courage to talk about an ending creates a new beginning. Because I know that when I was doing some IFS workshops, there was a trainer who was doing a workshop on high conflict, and he said at the time that when divorce is mentioned, the therapy is over. And I think when separation or divorce is mentioned, you can go deep into the therapy and the coaching and really help them communicate about everything. And when you have the skills to talk about what an ending would look like, it helps them decide whether they want to end it or really create a new beginning. Because when you don't learn some of the things I'm going to share with you in these vital information, you can get lost in their stories. In other words, people come to your office, they want to tell you their stories. You can take the whole session. They still haven't gotten through their stories. So I'm going to give you an initial interview today that's going to make it easy for you to get the facts and their feelings without listening to the whole story. And a lot of times, again, therapists feel, oops, they're talking about divorce or separation. I don't have those skills. Let me refer out to a mediator or an attorney. You don't have to refer out. I want to give you the skills that you can use in 2026 and beyond to keep your clients for weeks and even years. And you don't have to feel that you don't know the options. You don't have to be a mediator. You don't have to be an attorney. But when I offer my certification, and I'm going to tell you more about that, I give you all the details that you give your clients so that you have the information you need. And you can get that information and support and be a resource for your clients. So that's what I'd like to see for you. Because with compassionate mediation, it gives you a compassionate lens to talk about everything, all the issues. And what it does, it helps people restructure their relationship. So it's not just for divorce. It's not just when there's conflict. It can be any time when couples are wanting to communicate better. And you can use these skills to teach them how to compassionately communicate. So I've used my background. I'm a lawyer, I'm a therapist, I'm a mediator, I'm an IFS therapist, and I was trained at the Chopra Center to teach meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda. And what I do is I kind of blend it all together to create a process where you offer your clients both emotional and spiritual healing, along with legal and financial information and support. And stay tuned, we're going to talk more about that. So when we are working with couples, Dick Schwartz has said that I'm an expert at helping people realize their best self and learning the larger lessons that they're meant to learn. That's what I want for you. I want you to be able to work with your clients so they can learn the larger lessons, that it's not about the screens, it's not even about the sex. I used to do sex therapy. I had an office in St. Louis, and I was working with a sex therapist, and I found that when people stop being angry at each other, when they put down their walls, when they change the filters through which they're judging themselves and their partner, passion returns. So helping you help your clients get to their higher self and communicate from their higher self, that's what I'm going to share with you right now. And I also wrote the book Compassionate Divorce, Changing the Face of Divorce One Heart at a Time. And you can go to lindakrollbook.com to get a chapter of the book on mediation, and you can go get my roadmap at any time to get the roadmap of this process and find time for a brief chat with me. So let's take a breath and look at skill number one. How do we be compassionate with ourselves, practice our own self-care, and help our clients do the same? So Wayne Dyer has said, when we change the way we look at something, what we look at changes. And when your clients come in to your office, they're looking through the lens, through the filter, through their judgments, through their expectations. They're sharing their disappointments, the oughts, the shoulds. They're wanting you to help the other person recognize the error of their ways so that you can change the other person. But you can't change anyone else. A person could decide to change themselves and change how they relate to the person that they're having conflict with. And that's what you help them do. And you can help them in your first session. Because often partners don't talk with each other, they're talking at each other. And even though they're turned away, what they're really feeling is their inner child longing for connection, longing for affection, appreciation, attention, and acceptance. They're not getting it. And that's why they don't have sex. That's why they stay on their phones. That's why they pick at each other and bicker, because they're not getting their needs met. And they don't know how to ask for what they want and need because they don't know how to compassionately communicate. And Thich Nhat Hanh has said that to reconcile conflicting parties, you go to one side and you tell about the pain and suffering underneath. And then you go to the other side and you talk about the pain and suffering of the first side. When we help our clients recognize that they are both suffering, they are both scared, they are both hurt, they are both angry, and in the first session, you give them a new way of looking at each other and themselves with compassion. In that 45-minute session, miracles happen and they can change. And at the very least, they know that you have the skills to be the person who holds the space, as Thich Nhat Hanh said, in this field of compassion. We're not taking sides. We're helping each of them come from their highest self. Because people can build an entirely new marriage. Even people that come to me for mediation, they're both out the door. They both want to go. When they learn these skills, when they learn how to compassionately communicate and look at what an ending would look like, they can decide to create a whole new beginning with your help. So let's talk about skill number 2 in this program. So skill number 2 is, how do you foster self-led conversations? So what is self? Well, first of all, in compassionate communication, we help our clients be their best self, not their reactive parts, egos, judgments, blame, reactivity, hurt, sadness, fear. We help them connect to their best self. I'm going to tell you more about that. We help them let go of all those limiting beliefs and judgments that they took on from their family of origin, that they took on from prior relationships, about themselves as well as each other. We help them unburden the pain from the past, and I teach you how to do that. I'm sure you know already, but I give you extra skills, and relate from their heart. Because when they do that, they recognize that we're not just the drop in the ocean, as Rumi says. We're the entire ocean in a drop. So let's consider that. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And in our human experience, we tend to get triggered. And the people that come to our office are triggered. They're maybe have one foot out the door. Maybe they haven't had sex in years. Maybe they spend all their time on their phones because it's easier to distract, to disassociate, to ignore the problems than to really talk about it, because they don't have the skills that you can teach them. And when you teach them the skills, it makes a difference, because when a client is in self, they can make calm, clear decisions. They can be courageous and creative. They can find a way to look at the problem from a higher level of consciousness than where the problem started. And you can teach them how to do that in the first session. Because when we're talking self in parts, this is the picture that I often show my clients. And what it does, it talks about how our self is calm, clear, compassionate, courageous, confident, curious, connected. I add grateful. This is the internal family systems. This is my version of how to explain internal family systems. So we exile certain parts of ourselves, and so do our clients. They've been hurt for so long, they've been sad and scared for so long that they don't want to talk about it. Instead, they're just wondering, what about me? Who's going to love and care for me the way I need? And then they manage by different ways. A lot of codependents manage by being nice, pleasing, caretaking. But instead, we're putting on a pseudo-self where we look like we're in self, but we're really feeling some of these exiled feelings underneath. And then people get extreme in order to numb, so they get addicted to things. They get addicted to their TV or their phone or gambling or drugs. They go have an affair in order to numb. They withhold sex. They get enraged. They call a lawyer and say, get me divorced, because these are ways to react. But when we are in self, deep breath, when we are in self, we recognize that those parts are holding burdens. You can help your clients unburden the burdens with compassionate self-leadership. And then they have a dialogue where they talk about everything. And you become the expert in conflict resolution that you are always meant to be. Because not only do you have the skills that they talk about in traditional therapy, you have the skills of compassionate mediation. And just to take a moment, if you want, you can go to lindakroll.com roadmap at any time to get a roadmap and to also find a time for a brief chat with me. Because my next certification is starting soon, and it's by invitation. And you can get more information at Compassionate Mediation Info, compassionatemediation.com/info. Sorry, that's wrong. compassionatemediation.com/intro. Because what I'd like to do is have a 15-minute chat with you. I hope you get a lot out of what I've shared so far and what I continue to share. But we can find time for a brief chat where I can give you the benefit of my 35 years to help you in whatever you're dealing with right now. So it would be specific to what we're talking about to help you personally. So what I'd like to do is remind you that when people learn how to compassionately communicate, you bring in the miracle of empathy. And in my certification, I also give you the handouts and the templates to teach these things, including how to be empathetic. And when you are learning compassionate mediation, I give you the interview, which I'm going to talk with you about today, how to teach compassionate communication, how to explore all options, how to talk about legal rights and finances, and help your clients create the relationship they truly desire and deserve. Because in our first session, take a breath with me here, we offer hope. We talk them off the ledge. Have you ever noticed, and especially now with the holidays, people hang on by their fingernails, and then when they need to, they disappear into kind of their own addictions or avoidance rather than deal with the problem. But when they meet with you, you give them hope. In the first session, you explain what it means to be in self. You help them look at the parts that trigger each other. And I give a guided meditation that I can share with you that helps them get a felt sense of what being in self is about, because these techniques help your clients transform in the first session. And when they transform in that first session, they walk out of your office knowing that you're the person that can help them. Because you don't get lost in their stories. You ask a specific set of questions, including, what does your partner do that triggers you? What do you do that triggers your partner? I ask them to describe their family of origin, because in a brief interview, if I find out that they've come from an alcoholic family, or one where there's a divorce, or they're the last of 8 children, or they're the first of many, it helps me understand where they're coming from. And then I ask them to describe their partner's family of origin, because that helps them get a compassionate lens on where their partner's coming from. So they can understand, well, his father was an alcoholic, he never got his needs met, so of course he'd rather be on the phone or watch TV or look at something else besides his wife because he wants to numb out. He doesn't know how to share his feelings. And when you ask about family of origin, the wife also gets some perspective on that, or vice versa. And I do ask about spirituality and magic wand. And the reason I ask the word about spirituality and the magic wand question is because when I'm talking spiritual, I'm really talking about what's their word for self. So it doesn't have to be God. It's not about religion. It's about higher power, universe, nature, peace. It's about that peaceful presence because we're trying to help our clients to resolve their conflict, to stop withholding sex, to stop avoiding with addictions, to really engage with their own process and a process of compassionate communication where they can truly begin a new relationship with your help. So in doing so, I ask them about their word for spiritual, and I also ask the magic wand question. And the magic wand question is, if you had a magic wand, what would you like to see happen? And this is a very telling question because sometimes two people come to your office and it looks like they might be heading for divorce. But if you meet with them individually to do your intake for each of them before you put them back together, and one of them says, I wish that he would love me more. She's not really looking for a divorce. She's looking for a better relationship. She just doesn't know how to get it. And when you ask what would they like to see happen, it helps you set your GPS to help them discuss everything. Because in discussing everything, sometimes they have to look at their story from their higher self and understand that when they're talking about what they want and need, they have to listen with empathy. And empathy means they listen to the feelings that their partner needs to share, the hurt, the sadness, and they listen from a place where they use I messages. I feel sad and hurt and scared. Not I feel that you are avoiding me. That's a judgment, and the other person gets defensive. So when you're teaching the miracle of empathy, you're teaching them to speak for those exiled feelings, their hurt, their sadness, their fear. And you're teaching the other person to listen, to understand, and to empathize, which is either to make amends or to listen for what behavior changes are needed in a way that transforms the relationship. And all of that is in my certification, and I'm going to give you a little bit more right now of what we're talking about. So let's talk about the roadmap. And again, you can go to lindakroll.com/roadmap and get the roadmap of everything that I'm talking about with a video, and also find time for a 15-minute chat because my next cohort is starting soon. It's a very small group. It's by invitation only. And what we do is we work with where you are now and where you'd like to be. I give you the benefit of my 35 years of experience, but we make it personal to you. So please check out the roadmap and find time for a brief chat. I'm going to go on and offer more, but I want to make sure that you have that so we could meet soon. So here's when we learn compassionate mediation. Not only do we help people rekindle their sex life, get off their phones, stop being in a realm of conflict that seems never-ending loop, but we help them explore their options. And there's different options for different people. Excuse me. Excuse me. In other words, you may be working with a couple and one is intent on getting divorced or separating. That's the initiator. They're done. And the non-initiator is the one that's secretly hoping things will get better. And when you are working with two people with two different agendas, I tell the initiator, the one who is intent on getting divorced or separating or ending the relationship, I tell them that if they don't take the time to talk about the feelings that got them there with empathy, the person that doesn't want the divorce will leave the process. The initiator will then have to go hire an attorney, file for divorce, wait for the response, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars maybe, and wait a couple years to come back to a place where they can talk about everything. So I tell the initiator, they have to have the ability to process some of the feelings that you are going to help them process. And then I tell the non-initiator, the one that doesn't want to talk about divorce, doesn't want to think about it, I tell him or her that they have to be willing to at least explore what an ending would look like, because the person who's done will think it's just counseling and they're not fully invested in counseling, and they are going to be out the door. And then they'll lose their opportunity to process anything. So you have the skill set to process both, to process what would it take to create a new and better marriage, and what would it take to create a kind and peaceful, respectful separation or divorce. So you can also learn what their options are. And I give you all of this information that you give to your clients about how do they start with where they are. And in my sex therapy, the sex therapist I learned from had a tool where each party talked 10 minutes a day. And they were supposed to talk without any distractions. It had to be about non-serious issues, but just an opportunity to get them talking again. So there's minimal things they can begin to do. They can do their own therapy. They can start to look at a budget together and make changes. But you will have the skill set to explore all the options with them. And when you're talking about the possibility of an ending, the painful subjects, there's many of them, but we talk about parenting and child support. But even if they are not looking at an ending, even if they are looking at creating a new and better relationship, you want to make sure that you're giving them tools to resolve conflict, to compassionately communicate, and to keep their children from the shrapnel of their animosity. Because sadly, what the children feel is they hear what's going on, they understand everything, no matter what age they are. They feel the energy between their parents. And even if you're working with an individual, one person can make a change. One person can bring more of this information and self-energy back to their relationship because you've helped them do it. And then if they're going to talk about parenting, even if they're staying together, you talk about how to best communicate so that they can move forward with more respect, which creates safety for everybody. And then there's a lot to understand about rights and responsibilities, but you don't have to be a lawyer to understand this. In my compassionate mediation coaching certification, I give you all the details that you need to give your clients, meaning you stay one step ahead of them. So whether they start to talk about property or house or parenting, you don't have to be the expert. You have to have the skill set that I give you that allows you to stay a step ahead. And then as you give them the content that they need to process, you help them for weeks, months, sometimes years, process all the content that needs to go into these decisions. So I'm hoping that this is a sign you've been looking for. I'm hoping that listening live or listening to the replay, that what it's going to do is encourage you to sign up for a call with me, to get that roadmap, to go to lindakroll.com, get the roadmap, and find time for a brief chat. The times are limited. The group that I'm starting is small, so I'd love for you to get in on it while they're still available. And as this sign, your role becomes helping families restructure. You help them learn how to use empathy and I messages, and you encourage cooperation in any direction it's going. So all of a sudden they start being more affectionate, and I can give you some skills on how to teach people how to do that, how to start slowly, how to put their walls down and rekindle the passion that they used to have. And in terms of the screens, you help people get off their screens by helping them learn how to communicate. I know I'm pretty addicted to Facebook Reels these days. When I journal and get in touch with what I'm really feeling, I don't need to numb myself. And when you are dealing with an individual or a couple and one of them is complaining about how checked out their partner is, it's because they don't have the skill set to check back in and communicate the way they need to. So you are the one that's going to bring that expertise to them. And you're going to do that because as you learn these skills, you are going to have these unique skills. You are going to reduce burnout because you're going to realize you don't have to have the answer. You just have to have the ability to create a safe container to talk about everything. And you're going to feel inspired and uplifted because that's what I'm going to help you do. So this is the roadmap. And again, if you go to lindakroll.com roadmap, you'll get the roadmap, the video, and a chance to talk with me for 15 minutes about anything. And then once you've done that, you'll see that in this roadmap, we talk about how to be your best self, how to have compassionate communication, how to explore options, understand rights and finances, and plan for their future. And that's what I want to help you do. Because as you do that, you are going to be able to get more clients, keep your clients longer. Because in the Compassionate Mediation Coaching Certification, not only do I give you the skills to talk about everything and the Miracle of Empathy handout and training and how to process the feelings, but we also talk about the initial interview, how to talk about options, understand rights and finances, create new beginnings. I also help you with marketing tips in terms of how do you want to use the information I'm giving you? Do you want to use it with individuals? Do you want to use the information I'm giving you with couples? Do you want to use it by giving some workshops or teaching some groups? How do you want to be seen as an expert in healing relationships in 2026? And as you do that, you have at your disposal all the information about all of the options, and you get the templates, the handouts, the videos, the manuals, the cheat sheets, the audios, the guided meditations. Everything that I've collated from 35 years is on the Compassionate Communication Academy, and that's what you get in the coaching certification. So there is a way to create new beginnings for yourself and your clients in 2026, where we cover the emotional, spiritual, physical, legal, financial aspects of resolving conflict and creating better relationships. And you can get the information and support you need. You can get it in our 15-minute call. There's no strings attached. Just sign up for the call and we can chat and get to know each other. And a lot of times people come to me for mediated agreements and they walk out with peace and hope. That's what I want for you. I want them to feel your empathy, to learn communication from you, and to make you an expert so that you can move into 1996 with 2026 with all the information you need moving forward. So go to lindakroll.com roadmap and get the roadmap. You can go to compassionatemediation.com/intro. That is the link to get the introduction and what's in the Compassionate Mediation certification. And I want to stay on because I want to answer your questions. I want to see what's come up for you because there's a lot of questions that often come up, and I'm going to answer some of those for you. For instance, one of the questions I get is, why is this certification different from other certifications? The answer to that is, first of all, this one is providing continuing education credits for therapists and coaches by the National Board of Certified Counselors and the International Coach Federation. And as you get the continuing education credits, you also get much more. Because what you get is a truly transformational experience. The people that have taken the past 6 cohorts talk about the power of the group, the power of the community. And that's why the certification is by invitation only, because I do find out how much work you've done, how open you are to learning new skills, how much you have to share with the group, how much you can transform where you are now, both personally and professionally, with my mentoring and guidance and support. So I have a whole portal on the Compassionate Communication Academy with videos and handouts and all the rest of that. But the live sessions that we do every 2 weeks for 3 months are 2 hours long. It's me doing practice on you. In the interim weeks, you get to practice with other members of the group, so you get practical experience, you get the legal information, the financial information, but most of all, you have a place where you feel supported, seen, inspired, where I've built my practice on the back of many of my teachers, including David G., Deepak Chopra, Claire Diab, especially Richard Schwartz of Internal Family Systems. And I've compiled it into my compassionate mediation process, but because I'm 78 and a half, I would like to teach as many people as possible. And I would love for you to be one of the people that will be in the next cohort and find time for a chat with me to see if it's a fit. So this is a different experience. If you go to compassionatemediation.com/intro, you'll actually see some of the people who, oops, that's not the wrong one, compassionatemediation.com/info. Go there and you'll find people who have been in the class who have given their opinions and what it's like to work with me, and I hope you want to take me up on it. So in terms of other questions, somebody's asking, what's the best way to help somebody that comes in that feels stuck? It's a great question. And one of the ways to do that is to let them know that up until now, they've done the best they know how to do. That based on their level of awareness, based on their upbringing, based on whatever's happened to them in their past, they can forgive themselves, they can forgive their partner, and they can start over. And when they start over from their higher self, with your help, they can heal the pain from the past. Not just the pain in their partnership, but their pain in their past from their childhood on. And we talk about all of that in the certification. Because people don't have to be stuck. When they're stuck, it means they're afraid to take a look at what they're afraid of looking at. And a lot of people are stuck in black and white thinking. I either have to stay in this relationship that isn't working for me, or I have to get divorced, and that feels frightening. But when you have the skills of compassionate mediation, all parts are welcome. The parts that don't know what they want to do, the parts that want to leave, all parts are welcome with your support to talk about their fears, to ask for what they want and need, to put a spiritual graft on their ego's wounds. And what I often say is the reason for conflict is because our egos are hurt. We aren't getting what we thought we should. Our expectations are dashed, our pain. We want to be in control. We think people should treat us a certain way. But when we put a spiritual graft on, G-R-A-F-T, gratitude, radical acceptance, forgiveness, and trust. When you help your clients do that, when you help them look at what they have to be grateful for instead of what they're complaining about, when you help them set their GPS for what they want moving forward, not to stay in the loop of victimhood of what's happening to them now, when you truly help them know that you can help them create a new and better relationship, their hopelessness turns to hope. Their heartache turns to healing, and you're the catalyst for that. And you're the catalyst because of what you're already doing, but I'd also love to give you the benefit of all that I've learned in my practice so that you can use these skills in 2026 and beyond. So nobody has to stay stuck. I often say that being in limbo is much more painful than making a decision. Because when they make a decision, they can either begin to grieve the relationship, if that's what they need to do, or make plans for the future, or go into forgiveness and starting over. And I often say that if people were as willing to do as much work on themselves before they got divorced as they have to do to get divorced, there'd be a lot more intact families. So we can change the face of divorce and conflict in general, one heart at a time. You can be the person that has the expertise to be known as an expert in conflict resolution, to help your clients heal and transform their relationships. You're going to increase your impact, your income, your outreach, and your expertise. And I'd love to help you do that. So just before we close, if there's no more questions, and thank you for those who asked, I want to show you a few more free gifts so you can get the roadmap at lindakroll.com roadmap and get that. You can also get a free chapter of my book on compassionate mediation, which explains a lot more of what I'm talking about self and parts. And you can get my care kit, lindakroll.com care kit, because the care kit is going to give you the guided meditation that I do when the clients come to my office, the relationship assessment that you can offer your clients. So you can go to lindakroll.com CCC and get the care kit. So I am hoping that you got a lot out of today, either live or on the replay. Please connect with me in any way that feels right, but for sure go get the roadmap and let's find time for a chat, because if you've made it this far, I'd really like to know more about you too. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and please be in touch. We'll talk soon. Take good care. Bye for now. Bye-bye.